Hello, it's us again. We're back with you on the second part of our recording for tonight, or the next click of the track, as we say these days. We're returning to local news, this time with the lovely Jenny.
A private school is waiting to hear whether it has to bulldoze a cloakroom extension following a building blunder over how high it is. Fee-paying Keble Preparatory School in Winchmore Hill is due to find out if the modifications it had agreed to make had been rejected. The school fears if consent is refused, it could be landed with a bill of more than £250,000. The single-storey cloakroom was built 2 years ago to replace a rickety shed-like building which leaked and was draughty. But its size was deemed by the council to have a significant adverse effect on a neighbour's adjoining property. When the school realised a mistake had been over the height, it applied to the council for retrospective planning consent. Although officers recommended approval, councillors on the planning committee turned down the application on the grounds that the taller-than-agreed extension led to a loss of outlook and an increased sense of enclosure for the resident of the neighbouring property in Harwood's Yard, Ways Hill. But John Field, the school's bursar, fears that if the modifications, which include changing the materials used on the roof and removing the parapet walling, are rejected, the only option for the school will be to demolish the cloakroom and rebuild it. If we have to demolish and completely rebuild, it's something like £250,000 because it joins into an extension at the back, so we would have to take the whole thing down and rebuild from scratch, Mr. Field said. Obviously, it's a huge chunk of money, so it then has a knock-on effect on other things that we would like to refurbish. Although yearly fees for senior boys at the school work out at about £12,000, Mr. Field explained that because of its fee-paying status, Keble is not eligible for any of the building grants that state-run primaries can apply for. Despite the school's admission that it is prepared to spend £70,000 on changes it feels will benefit its neighbour, in a report which went before the planning committee, officers told councillors that the changes did not address the local authority's previous concerns about the development. The report states that the school has not overcome the reasons for previous refusal, as it has failed to address the main issue relating to its height and scale and the resulting loss of outlook and sense of enclosure.
A cabinet minister has become the latest to lend her backing to a campaign to preserve the history of a World War II landmark. Theresa Villiers, MP for Chipping Barnet and Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, is asking constituents to save Trent Country Park in Enfield and the Manor House and its grounds by signing a petition recently launched by Councillor Jason Charalambous. Trent Park, which used to belong to the Sassoon family, was used by the War Office as an interrogation centre and prison camp for high-ranking German prisoners of war, and it is widely believed Hitler's deputy, Rudolf Hess, was held there. The house and surrounding area were recently bought by Berkeley Homes for housing, and the petition demands part of the house be turned into a museum to commemorate its history. It has gathered 2,500 signatures, and Ms Villiers has contacted Enfield Council and lobbied Culture Minister Ed Vasey to see if any assistance can be provided. Ms Villiers said, "It is essential that the grounds remain open for public access. I'd also like to see areas of the house used for museum. I'll continue to work to ensure Trent Park is conserved for future generations." The mansion and surrounding buildings in Snakes Lane, Cockfosters, were sold by Middlesex University in August 2013 to Malaysia's Alliance University College of Medical Science for £30.9 million. However, plans to build a new university on the site were abandoned when the university went into liquidation. Berkeley Group spokesman Catherine Sender said, Since acquiring the site 8 months ago, Berkeley have refused on consulting the local community, including historians and heritage specialists, to ensure that we have a full understanding of the intricacies of Trent Park.
Britain's leading females bowls player visited Enfield to try and encourage more people to take up the sport. Ellen Faulkner is the reigning world indoor champion, having won the 2016 title 10 years after her previous triumph, and is a 3-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist. The 36-year-old visited Bush Hill Park Bowls Club last Thursday as part of a free community day, allowing anyone to come and give it a try. She said, "I have worked with the club before. The chairman owns the local bowl shop, and we are trying to get more people interested in the game. The best thing about bowls is that anyone can compete, even if they are older or less able to move. I won the national championships alongside my mum and my nan, and she is 78. It is a social game, so can really form a sense of community." Faulkner says her next goal is making the squad for the World Outdoor Championships in New Zealand, which take place between November the 27th and December the 12th. She also hopes to be able to defend her Commonwealth title in 2018, having won the last Games, which were held in Glasgow. Sonia, if your cold's okay and you're up to it, would you mind reading the next piece?
I'll have a go.
No.
A letter from Brian Huff asking if you recognise the names of these fallen soldiers. He writes, "I am acting on behalf of the authorities at the United Nations Memorial Cemetery, Busan, South Korea, where more than 800 British servicemen are buried. The authorities there wish to obtain photographs of those servicemen interred there, and also of those who died but have no known grave. The photographs will be attached to the men's records and will also be displayed on the walls of the Cemetery Hall of Remembrance for all time. The following names are just a few of the young men from the Greater London area who gave their lives in Korea. Private Redmond F. Morton, Corporal Roland D. Weaver, Private Robert W. Scott, Private William E. Dix, Major Charles P. Donahue, Lieutenant Corporal Roy W. Morgan, Rifleman Leslie Short, Private Stanley H. Law, Lieutenant Albert B. S. Hudson, Gunner Reginald B. Newman, Lieutenant Alan P. Daniels, R.N., Private Ronald Luckhurst, Sergeant Herbert F. Richards, Fusilier Alan R. Pryor, Lieutenant Dighton, and F.P. Probin. Any family or friend who lost a loved one in the Korea War, 1950 to 53, and wishes to take part, can send the photograph to Brian Huff, 116 Fields Farm Road, Hyde, SK14 3NP. For further details, phone 0161 368 5622 or 07467 037742. You can also email bhuff116@gmail.com. May I thank you for any help you can give on this matter.
This is another item on the recent marathon. Many people in Enfield successfully completed the London Marathon. 13 members of staff from Highlands School finished the 26-mile course, despite none of them having run a marathon before. They raised money for NSPCC Childline in memory of ex-student Frank O'Donoghue, who took his own life last year. Head teacher Bruce Goddard, who was part of the marathon team, said, "For most of us, this was a massive challenge and I am so proud. Everyone finished, but more importantly, we have raised an enormous sum of money in memory of our Frank." He said they have almost reached their target of £30,000 and are asking anyone who still wants to donate to do so via the school website. The teachers are not the only Enfield runners to have ticked the gruelling challenge off their bucket lists. Louise Williams, a singer from Edmonton, completed the challenge in 5 hours and 23 minutes, raising funds for deaf-blind children and adults through the charity Sense. Miss Williams, 20, said she signed up for the marathon on a whim, having only run for a maximum of 3 miles previously. She said, "I'm incredibly proud to have completed the London Marathon. I was coasting until around the 16-mile point, and then I hit the wall. It hurt so much. And I knew at that moment that I never wanted to run a marathon again, but I was determined to finish. I was overwhelmed by the kindness from supporters on the day which kept me going, and I'm incredibly thankful to all the people that have donated money. To sponsor Louise, visit www.justgiving.com/Louise Claire Williams.
Preschool children in Enfield are to become astrobiologists by growing seeds which have been in space. Head Start Day Nursery in Enfield will be one of 10,000 schools to receive a packet of 100 seeds from space, which they will grow alongside seeds that haven't been to space and measure the differences over 7 weeks. In September, 2 kilograms of rocket seeds were flown to the International Space Station on Soyuz 44S, where they spent several months in microgravity before returning back to Earth in March. Hayley Ridley, a teacher at Head Start, said, "This experiment is a fantastic way of teaching our children to think more scientifically, and they will share their findings with the whole nursery. The children have always been interested in space, therefore this is the perfect way to engage their interests further."
A record number of primary school children got their first choice of school, with Enfield Council claiming it was down to more places and careful planning. More than 96% of families were offered a place at one of their first 3 choices, compared with 94% last year. Of 4,508 on-time applications, plus 40 late bids, the highest number since 2011, 4,399 children have been offered one of their preferred schools, leaving 109 on-time applicants without the offer of a preferred place. Parents now have to accept the offer in order for their children to start school in September. Aoife Orban, the Council's Cabinet Member for Education, Children's Services and Protection, said, "Enfield has created 4,400 new school places in the past few years to try and cater for everyone." She said, "This year, 96.26% of families have been offered a place at one of their first 3 preferences. Through careful planning and well-managed projects, we have consistently developed primary school places, working with schools to ensure that we have enough places in the areas where they are most needed. In the past few years, we have created in excess of 4,400 places to ensure that Enfield's children can learn in great schools with all the facilities and great teaching for them to thrive. At Enfield schools, 213 places have been offered to children living outside the borough, and 232 Enfield children have been offered places at schools run by other local authorities. Enfield Council also confirmed that there were 422 places still open in reception for the 2016-17 school year.
A twin taking part in a medical study into the genetics of Parkinson's disease has spoken of his shock and relief after discovering that, unlike him, his identical twin brother was free from the condition. Peter and Paul Rodriguez, 47, were inseparable growing up and have shared many coincidences throughout their lives. So when Peter, a teaching assistant who lives in Connaught Road, Freezywater, was diagnosed with the illness 3 years ago, his first thought was for his brother, who had moved to the United States 20 years earlier. Peter said, "We were pretty much two peas in a pod. Our friends couldn't tell us apart. We had our tonsils removed at the same time, wisdom teeth removed at the same time. Whatever he had, I had." When Peter was told he had the incurable progressive neurological condition, his thoughts immediately turned to Paul. Peter said, "I was extremely relieved when I found out he didn't have it. If I could choose for one of us to have it, I would want it to be me, and I know Paul feels the same about me." So the brothers have joined the Parkinson's Families Project, which is led by Professor Hugh Morris, consultant neurologist and Professor of Clinical Neuroscience at the UCL Institute of Neurology at the Royal Free London Hospital in Hampstead. Professor Morris said, "The participation of Peter and Paul Rodriguez and similar families is essential for our work. We are focused on understanding the basic steps that lead some people to develop Parkinson's while others are unaffected. We hope that understanding these mechanisms will, in time, lead to new treatments that might halt this condition." Peter, who is a jazz pianist who played with singer-songwriter and former Southgate resident, the late Amy Winehouse, said that in the past year his symptoms had started to have a significant impact on his life, and that he now fears for the future. He said, "It started off as something that was a bit annoying, and then started to affect my ability to do the things I really love, like playing the piano. I worry that my wife married a husband, but I married a carer. I worry for the future, and the thought of a 4 foot 10 inches woman having to push me around in a wheelchair. I joined the research project because I wanted to help the doctors who were helping me. I also wanted to help stop other people experience this illness. If I have a chance to help eradicate this disease, I can't turn that down. There's also a part of me that wants to find out why I have it and my brother doesn't." The research team is interested in hearing from people with a family history of Parkinson's or who developed the condition before the age of 45. To get involved, contact Manuela Tan on 020 7794 0500 or alternatively email manuela.tan@ucl.ac.uk. Manuela is with one L.
The cost of renting a home in Enfield has seen one of the steepest drops in London so far this year, according to new research. According to London estate agent Portico, it is an average of 1.3% cheaper to rent a two-bedroom home in the borough now than it was in January 2016, the fifth largest drop across all London boroughs. Rent costs across all types of homes have also dropped by 3.7% in Enfield, again the fifth largest decrease, out of the 32 council areas in the city. Robert Nichols, managing director of Portico, said the majority of London boroughs are seeing rent increases anywhere from 1 to almost 7%. But our latest report also shows some significant rent drops. Bromley is down over 6%, with Enfield also experiencing nearly 4% reductions. The average rent for a two-bedroomed home in London now stands at £1,867 per calendar month, a 2% increase from the beginning of the year.
The newly appointed director of the Wireless Festival has accused campaigners attempting to stop it taking place of jumping on a bandwagon. Melvin Benn, Chief Executive of Festival Republic, which organises the event in Finsbury Park, has taken over the running of the music festival after antisocial behaviour marred last year's event. The Friends of Finsbury Park have sent a letter to Haringey Council asking for the event to be cancelled due to the disruption and are preparing to take the festival back to judicial review. After security breaches at last year's event, which included around 200 people storming through the fences without paying, and complaints of people inhaling nitrous oxide, Mr. Benn has pledged a 25% greater spend on security staff and has brought in retired police superintendents to help manage the security. Speaking at the Hospital Club in central London on Thursday evening, Mr. Benn said, "The Friends of Finsbury Park are barking up the wrong tree. They will not succeed. It is NIMBYism, I am afraid, in its worst form." The Wireless Festival is a great example of an event that brings in significant income to the community and will continue to do so. The Friends of Finsbury Park have sent a pre-action letter to the council and Wireless, which sets out the grounds, a legal challenge of the decision.
An Enfield company which builds furniture from recycled goods has been recognised by the Queen. Premier Workplace Services of Ardra Road, Edmonton, is celebrating being named a winner of the 2016 Queen's Award for Enterprise in Sustainable Development, the UK's highest accolade for business success. The company set up Premier Sustain in 2011, developing sustainable furniture using materials that had been sent to landfill. Sonia.
A sing-along proved the perfect pick-me-up for patients at North Middlesex University Hospital on Monday. Patients, staff and visitors sang and danced as Enfield community singers staged a free concert at the hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton. They performed a variety of popular tunes from Broadway and Hollywood musicals to hits by the Beatles. Stepping Out by Joe Jackson and All My Loving by the Fab Four were among the 23-strong choir's repertoire. More than 300 patients, staff and visitors enjoyed the free lunchtime concert, which was held as part of the hospital's Arts in the Atrium programme. And they helped raise the roof by joining in with classic tunes including There Is Nothing Like a Dame from South Pacific and Out of My Dreams from Oklahoma. 2 members of the choir were recruited by conductor Simon Gilbert, a professional singer, after they had been in the audience at a previous lunchtime concert. "It was a fantastic event," said John Carrier, chairman of the North Middlesex University Hospital NHS Trust. "Our patients and staff really enjoyed themselves. They sang along and danced. It was a great occasion, and we are very grateful to the choir."
And now a film review on Miles Ahead, which is rated 15 and lasts 100 minutes. Protégé, pioneer, heroin addict. That there were many shades to musician Miles Davis's life is a given, but what's not is that a memorable life lived means a memorable biopic made. Happily then, Hotel Rwanda and Boogie Nights actor Don Cheadle does a sterling job, or numerous jobs, as the co-writer, leading man and co-producer in Miles Ahead, his directorial debut about the late jazz trumpeter's 65 years. Like Davis's music and the mythology surrounding him, Miles Ahead follows its own rules, swerving the standard cradle-to-grave structure and instead offering up an elegant snapshot of Davis's life in the late 70s. Set 5 years on from his self-induced exit from public life and his subsequent pause in releasing new music, Miles Ahead sees him drug-addled and in pain from a chronic hip complaint. Living alone in a chemically induced stupor, he's taunted by memories of the breakdown of his marriage to muse and dancer Francis Taylor some years before. That the relationship was marred with his infidelity and abuse is neither glossed over nor glamorized, and consequently the portrayal is all the better for it. Equally plaguing his thoughts are demands from his record label, who are desperate to bring the world another recording. When wily and fictional Rolling Stones journalist Dave Braden, Ewan McGregor, forces his way into Davis's house to get the scoop on a rumoured tape of his latest compositions, the mercurial musician is seething and angrily accompanies him to the record label, which, according to Braden, arranged the chat. There they meet unscrupulous music executive Harper Hamilton, Michael Stuhlbarg, who sneakily gets his mitts on the recording. Hamilton is hell-bent on delivering a new Miles Davis record to his fans, and in doing so, netting a handsome profit for the company. He is also eager to secure Miles's support for his new jazz wonderkid, Junior, Lakeith Lee Stanfield, which would also create a healthy and lucrative buzz around him. Unfortunately for Hamilton, Miles couldn't give a fiddle about sales and ingenues and stops at nothing to take back what is his, taking Dave with him to write up his adventure. United though they are in the pursuit, buddy movie this ain't. If anything, the distance and cold resentment, though there are occasional flashes of camaraderie between Miles and Dave, adds a pitch-perfect humour to the already whip-smart script. Told through flashbacks, which are more free-flowing than formulaic, and sharp performances, Miles Ahead is a stylish and instructive sideways glance at the late legend's life that, like all good things, leaves you wanting more.
Stormtroopers, Disney princesses and a couple of tiny Darth Vaders were among the crowds at a comic-themed cake baking sale. Geek Fest was held at Karen's Kitchen, a cafe at St Luke's Church that stands on the edge of hilly fields, to raise money for the North Enfield Food Bank. Visitors to the fundraiser were encouraged to dress up as their favourite comic book hero. Organiser and cafe owner Karen Nash said it was a wonderful fun day, full of silliness and laughs, and we raised more than £300. There were lots of stalls, kids' stuff, games, crafts, and of course, cake, she said. People really got behind the theme, and we had such a good time. We collect for the food bank here at St Luke's, and it's really sad that the number of people who rely on the food bank. It's a real problem in today's society. Since she took over running of the cafe in Phipps Hatch Lane and renamed it Karen's Kitchen just over 2 years ago, she has raised £1,500 for various charities. Karen, 44, who is moving to Manchester in July to start up a Scandinavian cafe with her brother, said she wanted to raise £1,500 before she left and was delighted with her legacy.
Well, we've reached the end of this programme for this week. Don't forget that next week there will not be an issue because we won't be recording, unfortunately, due to the mayoral elections. We'll say goodbye in a moment, but first of all, we ought to say goodbye to cassettes because that's it. So from the team of Sonia, Jenny, Roz, myself and Jason on the controls, who's throwing the rest of the cassettes up in the air, it's goodbye.